Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Ancient Historia. This is literally like the sixth time I'm going to record this episode because unfortunately I've had non-stop computer issues today. It's been awful. This laptop isn't going to make it much further. But without further ado, onto the episode. We are going to be revisiting Egypt, as we did yesterday, seeing the pyramids again, and we're going to try and find out a bit more about these two sphinxes that we saw. So before we get into that, we're going to view the images that we went over yesterday, just to jog our memories. We're not going to spend as long on it, so if you do want to watch that, feel free to go and watch yesterday's episode. So the first thing we'll notice down here is our Sphinx, very close to the water. It's showing no damage, and it also appears to be on some kind of platform down here, and it's got long hair. So we know our Sphinx today has some kind of Egyptian headgear on, so just bear that in mind. Now the pyramids themselves do also appear to be on these square bases. Can't really see under there, but it does appear to have this same square base. We can see it on this one here. And it raises the question about whether they all have these bases on. Perhaps they've just been covered up. As you can see here, this mound is half covering this one. So possibly they're all on these bases. This one in the middle, we weren't sure if it had some kind of covering on it, because it looks like it could almost be tied down over here, possibly to protect it from weathering or something, I don't know. Or it could be part of the stonework. And obviously this humongous looking person in the ground with huge Egyptian knockers, they like to put these on everything. No hair or headgear. We're not sure if those are wings on the back, so that possibly could be one of our sphinxes, but we're not 100% right now. So notice the heights, these pyramids, the triangles on them much more isosceles. So we'll move on to the next image. This image shows us 8 pyramids, all looking very similar size, but again much taller than we are to expect from our pyramids today. Also notice the size of the blocks. These are people down here. These huge blocks going up, absolutely humongous. And just so that we know that isn't a design choice, down here it gives us a bit of a description. And it does say that the top of the largest pyramid, which was 624 feet high, the tallest pyramid, had a 16-foot, so if you imagine a 16 by 16 square at the top here, so they're saying that each of these sides on the biggest, whichever the biggest is, perhaps it's this one, but we'll just use this one for the example, that each of these sides is 16 feet by 16 feet, and that they were composed of only 5 stones. If you imagine at the top there, that is supposedly only 5 stones, making up that 16-foot by 16-foot area. So that's 200 and however many feet, 250 odd feet, 256 or something. Right, I just had to pause and check so that I wasn't being an idiot. No, it is 256 feet squared. We have our sphinxes, and this one has the headgear on. This one has the long flowing hair with a kind of nightcap. They've both got huge Egyptian tits for some reason, and obviously the wings on this one. This is the Greek Sphinx, but again on some type of podium and quite close to each other. Over here we have a woman in the ground on a podium, so is that possibly the same woman that we saw before, although she looked a lot bigger in that last image, but that's possibly something. And if you remember yesterday we talked about this, but the base, apparently the sides of the base of the biggest one, 682 feet, and again the height is 624 feet. It doesn't match the Pyramid of Giza today. The biggest pyramid at Giza today, according to this, it's 756 feet at the base and 455 feet tall. So these pyramids, the biggest one here is almost 200 feet taller, but its base is actually shorter by 70 feet. So it's 70 feet shorter on this base going around, but it's almost 200 feet taller in height, which again fits with these much narrower designs than what we see over at Giza. This was by Athanasius Kircher, the guy that's written this Tourist Babel, which we have the book. We're going to be going through that book, and I'm going to be finding any interesting drawings and stuff to show you from that, because as you can see, this guy has done a lot of stuff. Notice Memphis there on the Nilus flue, and also Heliopolis. We're going to see them in a second. And look at the design of this pyramid. It's got these entrances at the bottom, presumably on all four sides, and also stairs outside to the subterranean crypts, which is very interesting. This says, barbarous pyramids silence the wonders of Memphis. So, one interesting thing I didn't talk about yesterday, but I just thought I'd bring up today, is the Barbara. Because obviously, if you've watched this channel before, you might have noticed the connection between Tartaria and Barbaria, and how they come from the same groups of people, and how they're just Baba-Aryans, if you remove that R. So these are Baba-Aryans. We see pyramids on maps of Tartaria in Karakora or Karkarin. Apparently they buried their kings underneath these pyramids. So it's possible the barbarians have brought that custom to Egypt with them from Tartaria. Possible. Or vice versa. But I just thought that was something worth bringing up. This next image shows us on tall sections of these pyramids, again looking very different, very close to the water. We have our subterranean crypt, so we'll have to quickly have a look at this. Notice these doorways here, so this has really been carved out. Imagine how much work this would be, completely under the ground, as you can see by these people climbing some type of rope to get out. Though maybe they're unaware of the stairs right there. And we also have what looks like a coffin here, with some type of tablet leaning on it, with inscriptions. And over here is an absolutely monstrous looking coffin. You see the size of the people. This is like a coffin for giants. Is that possibly something? Because you might have heard the rumours in some religions, some old religions, that there were sleeping chambers, hibernation chambers, underneath the pyramids, in these chambers, where the gods of old would basically go and put their bodies for 100 years at a time to rest and fix their bodies. And during that time, supposedly, they would reincarnate on Earth as normal humans till their body was ready. Just so you know, I'm not endorsing that, just telling you. Not what I believe happens, but interesting. Again, notice these squares. We're going to see that on a map. This one's obviously very different, a bit damaged there, but this one's very different from an obelisk. But you're going to see a lot more these. So again, don't want to spend too much time on this, because we're just going over old stuff. But to be fair, most people will probably tune in on the premiere about now anyway, so they won't have missed much. Again, the same entrances as we saw around before, this time with the statues at the front, and entrances halfway up, which we didn't see. There's also busts of women on top of these. So those are the pyramid images we looked at yesterday. Now we're going to jump over to Google Earth and have a look at the pyramids today. So here we are with the three main pyramids and the smaller ones around it. And our Great Sphinx is located there. So this is obviously in the layout of the Orion star system, as we've talked about. Some people know it supposedly lines up to some of the stars in Orion's belt. The ancients knew that and lined them up, apparently, with those stars. And this is our one Sphinx. Now notice that it's not on the water's edge. If we zoom out, this is around where Memphis would have been, and the ruins of Memphis are today, that city we saw, just south of Cairo. I've brought you to raremaps.com, where we've got Egyptus Antiqua, so we can have a look at this. Now, here's Memphis, where we'll find Cairo today pretty much. Notice Babylon over here, and also Heliopolis, which is that place we saw earlier. So Memphis right here on the water, and just south of Memphis are the pyramids. Now, the fact that they're drawn as on the coast, we can't really be too petty with, because obviously the size of the map, we can't really expect them to show a few kilometers like that. But reasonably, they should be a little bit over here. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is these pyramids, not that mighty on this map. Considering that the pyramids of Giza are supposed to be, the wonders of Egypt, you'd think they would be the biggest thing on the map with big arrows saying fucking pyramids are here, come see these. But you'll see, instead, they're quite small, they're narrow, like we talked about, the Nubian style to the pyramids, and they've got these bases underneath. And we'll get a better view of that by going over to this island here, where we can see exactly how they are designing these pyramids on this map. Now look at that. That's not how we see the pyramids today. And again, these are much larger for the drawing than the pyramids there. Now, I can't make too much of an issue out of it, but you just think that considering the pyramids are supposed to be amazing, you'd think that they'd be huge drawn-on pyramids, really showing off that this is where the beautiful, amazing pyramids are. But that's neither here nor there, so we'll leave it. But if you want to see this map, come to Rare Maps and look for Egyptus Antiqua, and you'll find it, and you can have a look for yourself, because there's some interesting things on here. This image is from the New York Public Library. It's the Pyramids of Egypt and the Sphinx. I'm not sure when it's from, but as you can see, the pyramids, well, this one in particular, very tall looking, as opposed to what we know about them. And this Sphinx is quite interesting, because we saw something like this on another post yesterday, and I wanted to come back to it, because look at the rivets going down the side here, and the destruction around this side. Now it does resemble, if we find the oldest photos of the Sphinx that we can find, then it does kind of resemble this, to be fair. So this is the image. You can see this kind of resembles more what we're looking at. It gets a lot wider, a lot faster on this one. And it does make me wonder if they've added, reconstructed these sides, and it actually went much further down like that. So we'll have a look at a couple more images around here. But as you can see, you can kind of get where they were coming from. Look at that. So that, from here, kind of looks like this, although they are really making it look like there isn't more going under. You'd think these people would know, right? It'd have something, but this really does look like just a head on this weird podium thing with lots of rivets going up. The next image, which is from that bloke I told you about, Athanasius Kircher, because this is his Tower of Babel image, supposedly from Babylon. So I wanted to just show you this because I thought you'd find it interesting. Like I say, we will go through his whole book and see a load more of these. But first things first, we'll zoom in down here and have a look around. This is supposedly from Babylon. Now there's a lot of debate about where Babylon really was. But look at this. This is insane. I mean, not only have we got all this built on top of ruins, look at their chambers going underneath the rock here. So presumably there are chambers everywhere in this. We don't know how accurate this is, or if he was just making it up, or if he really went. Presumably there'd be evidence for this giant structure if it existed. Because look at it, that's insane. That really does look like something out of Lord of the Rings. See all the people here walking around these gigantic archways. I'd love to believe this is real, but people will laugh at me if I say this was real. So we'll have to play it close to our chest and say it was probably his fantasy. But look at this at the top. Is this destruction? Or is that them continuing to construct this tower even higher? Is that what's going on there? Or is it actually suffered some kind of damage up there? That's crazy. Now, in the distance, come here, you can actually see one of those pyramids we saw on the map, with the podium, square, and then that. Again, look, same type. Another interestingly rising tower. These are really cool. An obelisk looking thing there. What else can we see? Boats and stuff on the Nile. Wow, look at these structures. Imagine if this was real. I mean, they must have worked really hard to bury it if it was, but another pyramid there. But we don't want to spend too long on that, although I could spend forever looking at this image because it's so cool. Is there anything else I need to show you? Got our pantheons here. Yeah, no, that looks like everything, I think. Oh, we can see another. Ooh, that's interesting, actually. That one's been broken, but they've got, again, these obelisk type things that we just saw. You know how I said they look like the top of the building? Got them on the entrances here, so that's very cool. But we're going to move on now to have a look at our two sphinxes with some stuff we found online. I brought you to the Egypt Independent to read this article from 2018 that says that a second sphinx was discovered in Luxor. While working on a road in Luxor, construction workers have discovered a mysterious statue with a lion's body and a human's head, believed to be a second sphinx. The workers were developing a road between the Luxor and Karnak temples, only 6 miles from the famed Valley of the Kings, when the statue was found. The statue's lifting has not yet been completed, and it will take some time due to the nature of the environment in which it's been located. Finding corresponds to a theory among some historians that 2 sphinxes are complementary in ancient Egyptian art, one male and one female, although for some reason both of them have gigantic tits. Similarly, Egyptologist Bassem al-Shamar theorized that the remains of another female sphinx would be found under the sand of the Valley Temple of Khafre, parallel to the Great Sphinx. Several antiquities experts and scientists approved of al-Shamar's theory, while others rejected it completely. The well-known Sphinx statue is located by the pyramid complex in the northern governor of Giza and is likely to date back more than 4,500 years. Based on a mythical ancient Egyptian creature, the Sphinx is 73.5 meters long, 6 meters wide, and 20.22 meters high. It is believed to have been built under the reign of Pharaoh Khafre. And I'll bring you to almonitor.com, where it says archaeologists scoff at the claim of a second Sphinx statue. An Egyptian tourism official claimed the discovery of a second statue of the Sphinx, sparking controversy and surprise in Egypt. The director of public relations for the Giza Pyramids district at the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities told local media on October 24th, this was in 2021, that he discovered a statue in the pyramids area that is of similar size to the Sphinx. According to him, the statue is 73 meters high, with a head 20.5 meters high, and hands extended over 15.5 meters like the Sphinx. He added that the scientific research was published at Zagazig University, confirming the existence of this statue. However, this is completely not true. Former Minister of Antiquities and an archaeologist who oversaw the pyramids told them, Sphinx is unique in Egypt and the world. Any talk about discoveries of other similar statues is baseless and has only one purpose, which is creating media fanfare. Alright guys, there's only one Sphinx. Only one. And there's no evidence that there was ever more than one. Absolutely zero evidence whatsoever that there is more than one Sphinx. Ludicrous to suggest it. Why would people say such lies? Studies and research must be published in a scientific journal so that we can respond with scientific evidence. Talks about a text that is said to have been inscribed on the Sphinx but got erased by the passage of the time, mentioning the existence of another similar statue, are baseless. During the many years I headed the Giza Pyramids area, we worked along Egyptian and foreign experts and archaeologists, scanning the entire area, and I can assure you there is not another statue of the Sphinx. Now, I've got a few theories. Considering those other statues were supposedly right by the Nile, maybe they've moved the Sphinx, or maybe it's a different one. But If they're so confident that there isn't another Sphinx in the area, maybe it's because they bloody know there isn't another Sphinx in the area because they put that one there. It's not next to the Nile. It looks like they've moved the pyramids themselves. I know that's crazy, but David Ewing Jr. would tell you that the pyramids were constructed way more recently than we're told. So perhaps he's right in a sense. Perhaps the pyramids were deconstructed somewhere much closer to the Nile and moved to their current position at the Giza plateau. Perhaps these are just theories. This is not. It's not me telling you exactly what to think. This is up to you to decide. Now, the way that they are putting it down, like, nope, there's absolutely no evidence, is strange, because doing a simple bit of online research will bring up many pictures that show different sphinxes, not just two, but different ones with different details to them. Like, say, the long hair on the womanly looking one with the wings as well. Whether or not there's two in the image, people don't just add long hair and wings to sphinxes, and we know of the Greek Sphinx. I've also come to this website, which is the historyfiles.co.uk, and it's talking about two sphinxes. So I was just going to read this for you. It says two sphinxes existed on the Pyramids Plateau according to a study which was published in 2007 by Egyptologist Bassam el-Shamar. El-Shamar said the famed half-lion, half-man statue was an Egyptian deity that had been erected next to another sphinx, which has since vanished without a trace. This theory, however, is in contradiction to the general belief that a single colossal statue functioned as a guard to the pyramids. El-Shamar said the idea of two sphinxes is more in line with ancient Egyptian beliefs which were mainly based on duality. The pyramid texts that have been recovered at Saqqara, especially from the Wanis pyramid, contain descriptions of the ancient Egyptian conception of how the universe was created. Basically, this concept underlined the belief in duality. Whenever anything comes up that deals with the solar cult, we should speak of one lion and one lioness, facing each other, posing parallel to each other, or sitting in a back-to-back position, according to Mr. El-Shamar. The double avenue of a ram-headed sphinxes fronting the first Karnak pylon and its counterpart of human-headed sphinx at the Temple of Luxor emphasize this duality, alongside other indications such as the double crowns of Upper and Lower Egypt, Isis, Osiris, Hathor, and Horus. Egyptian records and mythology suggested that lightning destroyed part of the Sphinx, but Mr. El-Shamar suggested that this may reference the second Sphinx, which was eliminated after being cursed by the chief Egyptian deity. Utterance number 600 says that Atum, the complete one and creator god in ancient Egyptian mythology, created his son Shu and daughter Tefnut, shaping them as a lion and a lioness, and placing each one on an extreme tip of the universe. Shu was to take the solar disk between his jaws and hand it to his sister Tefnut, who in turn would capture it between her jaws, and by doing so, they would achieve the full cycle of the sun. The idea of there being two sphinxes at Giza was intriguing and plausible, but it was totally opposed to another theory that there was one and only sphinx was constructed well before the Egyptian influences could be brought to bear on it. Only later was its proportionally sized head carved down to produce something that looked suitably pharaonic. Weather patterns along the flank suggest water wear, which could have only come, according to the theory, from rainfall much heavier than pharaonic Egypt would have seen. So now we're just going to have a look at some of the maps that I've got lurking in the Discord that I've been wanting to show some people. This one's from 1835, I think, 1830s at least. Seaton's map of Palestine or the Holy Land. But have a look at our Sphinx here. Missing almost the entire headdress, looking very feminine. Notice the head shape looks kind of like the picture we saw before. And our pyramids are supposedly, aside from that looking very bright, supposedly looking a bit more normal now. See? Although the size of the blocks would still indicate that these are rather large indeed. Principal Square in Grand Cairo. This one is Egyptus Hodiana. If you want to find this on rare maps, just search for that. You will do. Some interesting things. If we come down to the Nile Delta, don't want to go that close, but here it goes now. We do see some bastion forts or star forts around here on the Nile. Got a couple over here as well, here and there. And here at Cairo, Got an entire star city, bastion city going here. Gross, Cairo, and a smaller one on this side. And our pyramids, which, again, are back to looking particularly tall in their design. Pyramides. So at least they're in relatively correct positioning now, although this is showing these being much closer. So are these the ones at the ruins? And wow, this thing is sensitive. If I touch it even a little bit, it just goes off. But yeah, more star forts down here, and more pyramides, as you can see. And one thing I completely missed because I was looking up on this side is more pyramids here at Saqqara, just on the border here. So lots of pyramids around. And as we go further down, another pyramid there. A bit further down, we have again more pyramids just in this section by these forts. And look at that. That's interesting, isn't it? Is that just shiny, or is that doing something, do you think? And here is our images of some of the pyramids. Look at that. There in the distance. Even more pyramids. And down here is our Sphinx. Our winged Sphinx. Okay, so there was never any other Sphinx. It definitely wasn't right next to the water. It didn't have wings, and it didn't have either long hair or this headdress on. But it just didn't exist, right? Stop drawing it on maps, it wasn't there. That building there really reminded me for a second of the Chinese buildings that you see that they say are energy towers, but look at that. Here and there. But again, this is the thing that we've seen a few times, this buried person on a podium. It does look like the bust on a podium, but it could be more of a Sphinx, couldn't it? Or something. This is pretty evident that there is a Sphinx. Someone has seen this Sphinx. They've drawn it there for a reason, unless they've just made up the history of ancient Egypt and all this stuff is just nonsense and they couldn't get their stories straight. Maybe people were given too much free rein to just make up whatever they wanted, and then a few hundred years later they had to throw some things out to make it all gel together. I don't know. But we'll move to the next image. Now this image actually gives us an accurate representation of where we see the pyramids today. We zoom in, you'll see that these have been designed in the modern manner, the modern layout, with our Sphinx, pyramids, the smaller ones, and the gardens behind. So that is the official location, nowhere near the water, as you can see. Only one Sphinx. This is just a map of Alexandria that I thought I'd bring your attention to. Nothing crazy on it, just some interesting things I wanted to look at, like this. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Don't know what the hell it is, so someone would have to tell me. We could use our key down here. So it's some kind of obelisk. Can't actually read that, so, and I can't be bothered googling. A mystery it shall remain. But those are the buildings. Thought I'd give you that little view of Alexandria. Now this was another image that we did see yesterday I wanted to just bring up because it has that same design to the Sphinx that we saw earlier that we were talking about. It has pyramids as the principal pyramids, or the main the pyramids from afar. Then this is the three main pyramids shown. The pyramid you can climb, and the pyramid you can enter. So notice the difference between these. You know, no beautiful entrances as depicted on some of them, and not at all like we've been shown. Okay, so this next image was sent to me by somebody on Reddit. Well, they'd apparently commented on the video, but unfortunately YouTube removed the link because it seems to think that you're posting dangerous material, even if it's just Internet Archive. But thank you for getting in touch with me, because he wanted to send this picture that had our Sphinxes. We're going to zoom in and look at that in a sec. This thing's really temperamental because it's got to be this way. So I was just also going to say, before we look at it, this book is very interesting. It's got a load of cool stuff in it. So I've saved this book, and I think tomorrow we're going to go through some more of the pictures inside this thing, as well as lining up the other books by Athanasius Kircher. So we're going to have some really cool stuff to look at to do with Egypt over the next couple of days. But we'll look at this, and then I'll try and call that an end to the video. I say try, as if I won't be able to. But these are our pyramids, showing, look how many there are. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in this one, it appears. So that is the same as that image we saw earlier. And look here. We have one Sphinx, and we have a second Sphinx. We also have that person, the buried person again. And we're given a little key. I think this might be worth translating. Look at that. Definitely a second pyramid. But just remember, guys, there was never a second Sphinx. There was just never a second Sphinx. Okay, so this just says the Sphinx in its entire form. And that says the rest of the colossal Sphinx. And it gives us the pyramid. It says the Grand Pyramid was made in 20 years by 360,000 men. So, see what I mean about this being temperamental? It has taken us back a page, but this is just a little taste of our Babylonical, the spectacular Babylonica, which we're going to be having a look at, seeing some more of this. But that was our two Sphinxes, loads of pyramids, as you can see, because obviously today at Giza, just to remind you what it looks like. But yeah, so, you know, these are smaller pyramids in this line, very easy to draw like this, isn't it? You know, one there with 3 outside it, then one, these ones here. Very easy to do that. Or make them all look similar size and scatter them all over the place as if it's a completely different site. Because if these 3 were the only ones you could see, and then they had smaller ones maybe just here on the edge and here, it'd possibly look like Giza, but all these ones in the background give it away. Either it's a different place entirely, or they've taken some down, or they've reconstructed them, etc. And you've also got these ones down here at the bottom. So, thanks for tuning into that today. Thanks to all the people that support the channel. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do. You can join the memberships. There's a Patreon. You can buy me a coffee. If you join the Patreon or the channel memberships, you can join the Discord, so you can come talk to us in there, and we post stuff like this, links to cool books and stuff. So if that's something that interests you, then that's a nice benefit of supporting the channel.